Hello, how are you doing?
Good. Just trying to figure things out. How are you surviving in the middle of this crazy heat wave?
Yes, it is extremely hot. I'm trying to remember, is it normally this hot during the summer? Or it might be because I'm outside for like multiple hours a day. I am coping tomorrow with ice cream though, so
Ooh,
I'm good.
nice. It's just that kind of heat that's just exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even like a fun, ooh, let's go to the beach. Ooh, let's go to the park type of a heat. It's just the kind of, I feel like I am being like the sun is frying me
Yes.
alive.
Yeah, we were towards the end of the day and my ankles were in the sun and it felt like they were burning. It's like, oh my gosh.
Have you ever gotten sunburned so bad that your skin just sheds so it just peels and it's so gross, and you know that the top layer of your skin is basically a Lay's chip?
Ooh. I've not experienced that. I've seen people experience that though. So I've been in the vicinity.
You are very fortunate, because whenever you just feel like either like a crab or a tarantula whenever your skin just peels off. It's so gross.
Yeah, not an experience I need. You've experienced that, I'm assuming?
Yeah, one too many times at the beach.
Oof. Yeah.
Wear your sunscreen, kids.
Wear your sunscreen and reapply it.
And reapply it. That's what I didn't do. Oh my goodness. Before we get into this, did you see the news about I forgot their name. They're going to the Olympics. She's a runner and she I'm gonna pull up the article right now. The last thing I also Googled was how to get a stuck leaf out of its leaf sheath thing on a plant.
Such a plant mom. Oh.
Pick Olympic athlete protest. Gwen Berry protests during the national anthem. She turned her back during the national anthem, and put a T-shirt over her head that said, Olympic activist athlete. So, yeah, it's according to NPR. During the medal ceremony for the U.S. Track and Field Olympics, Gwen Berry, Olympian third-place finisher in hammer throw on Saturday, turned away from the flag as the national anthem played.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of reminiscent of that one Olympic Games. Remember when the athletes held up their fists?
Yes.
I forgot their names too. That I'm so bad at remembering history. That was also track and field, right?
I believe so. I remember moments, but yeah, not necessarily names. But yeah, this it feels similar. Wow.
Yeah. Major props to Gwen. That just takes guts.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, representing your country.
Yeah. Are you gonna watch the Olympics?
I don't normally. I wish I think I should, but I don't normally watch the Olympics. What about you?
I like to I'm not a huge Olympic fan, but I do dabble. And then one of my childhood friends had a dream to go to the Olympics too, and was competing in track and field professionally, but is no longer. But there was also a decathlete in my hometown that went to the Olympic trials a couple of times too.
That's so cool.
So my parents were a little more into it than I was.
Okay.
But Yeah. I always thought it was cool. I feel like it's kind of this weird idyllic type of symbolism. Like it just kind of like the world comes together for the Olympic Games and everything is cool and peachy and we're all holding hands and peace and whatever, when that's not the reality.
Yes. I think especially right now, which is why I think it was so bold of her to do that. I don't see a lot of people, I mean, if I'm wrong, then I'm sorry. I don't see a lot of people kneeling for the anthem anymore. Even the US women's national team, the soccer team isn't kneeling anymore. So for her to still show some type of protest, to be like, okay, Black lives still matter. She didn't say that, but to me, that's what I'm getting is, wow.
Yeah, major props to Gwen Berry. Like, yeah, just so much respect. And for professional athletes, just in general too, it takes so much just to go and be on the platform that they are on.
Yes. And then to use it, because I feel like it's in some ways convenient, and in some ways I totally get it for you to just do your sport and then go home and then not ruffle any waves. But for the ones who do, yeah, it takes an incredible amount of courage.
Especially whenever you're not in like a more like commercialized sport like football or baseball or basketball. I feel like those are the top three, right?
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I feel like those athletes have such an easier access to a platform, and many choose not to use it. But for an athlete that is going to the Olympics, you only get the Olympics every 4 years. And to be able to use that stage to speak out, it's really, really admirable to me.
Yeah, it definitely makes me feel like those are people who really love their country, who really are expecting the best out of it, the people who are still protesting at the Olympics because they're saying, okay, yeah, I'm representing my country, but also we are not perfect.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I feel like people should be allowed to be critical of their country, or a racist policy, or something. They're allowed to voice their opinions, or they should be allowed to.
This reminds me of, oh, go ahead.
No. That's what I was done. Yeah.
This reminds me of Ilhan Omar. She was doing an interview and they were talking about how when Trump was in office, people were like, oh, you can't like question him, that's disrespectful. And she was like, in a democracy, you absolutely should push for whatever is best for the people. Like that's one of the things, that's one of the foundational beliefs that fuels a democracy. So the fact that you think you have to like completely follow someone blindly is concerning.
Did you, she tweeted earlier, either today or earlier this week. Well, it's only Tuesday. So either today or yesterday, she tweeted about how there was a push for her to retake her oath of office, but to be swearing on the Bible rather than the Quran.
What?
And I was like, religious freedom where?
Separation of church and what?
Like, come on.
What? Oh, she deals with so much crap and always handles it with the most grace. I mean, so much respect to her because that is ridiculous.
Like, having a representative like that makes me want to move to Minnesota. I don't know what else I would do there, but
just so you can say that she's your representative.
I know, right? I mean, I'm not even in AOC's district, but I feel like most of New York claims AOC.
Yes, it makes me want, like, I wish I lived there. I wish she could be my representative. Even though she kind of is, even though I'm not in New York.
And then whenever I look at places like my home state, and I'm just like,
yep.
Cool. They tried passing another bill allowing social workers to discriminate again. the Texas legislature.
I just we've hit this before, but like, why are we manipulating the laws like this? You're intentionally making it to where it's legal to discriminate.
Exactly. It's so wild. Like, oh my goodness. Wow. We are already like 10 minutes in and we haven't even started talking about the book.
So many good conversations.
Yeah, this is like, I feel like we could always kind of open up our conversations with like a little bit of news, a little bit of what's it called? Not like hot topics, but like what current events.
There we go.
That thing.
Those are real.
Apologies. I ate so much barbecue. I am literally in a food coma right now. And I'm sorry, Mom and Dad. I ate barbecue in New York. Yes, I know it's sacrilege for a Texan to do that, but like, you have a craving. You have a craving.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yep. Alrighty. So let's get into it. I think we read to like different parts of the book. I read until it got to part 2.
Oh.
And I stopped. Where did you?
I did not read that far.
Oh, okay. Where did you stop?
I just stopped. The last story I read, I believe, was about Cindy.
Okay.
That's where I stopped.
Okay. So I read all the way until we got to part 2, and I don't want to spoil it for you, so I'm going to let you go first in talking about what you found in this book, and how we can look at it through an anti-racist lens this week.
I mean, there was so much, even in like the 3 parts that I read. I guess what I'm thinking about now, because I just told you I read to when we heard about Cindy, and what ended up happening with Nicole Chung's biological sister, and that the parents split. She lived with the mom, and then she decided that she wanted to live with her dad, and her dad got remarried, and she didn't feel 100% comfortable. And then they moved to Guam, where there was so much diversity amongst her and her friends, and it seemed like she fit in a little more there in Guam. And I was just like, wow, it's so crazy how her and Nicole's stories kind of parallel, even in completely different circumstances.
Yeah, for sure. And I just think that diversity in your environment is such an important element to anyone's anti-racist education. Like, and it's not just in like racial diversity, it's also just like diversity of thoughts, diversity of like backgrounds. To like, I feel like my own upbringing was very homogenous. A lot of like very similar socioeconomic, the socioeconomic field was pretty even. Like racially, it was mostly white people, I want to say, growing up, and then the people of color that were in the community, they were kind of seen as like the tokens. But then I went to college, and you just start meeting so many more different people, and even going into grad school, meeting even more different people.
Yeah. I think you bring up a good point. It's not just race, it's different socioeconomic status and religions and age. And because when I think about like Kamala Harris saying diversity is our superpower, I 100% think she's talking about race. But no, I mean, even being able to have, like right now with our political climate, having conversations with people with different views than you, and being able to walk away and like not scream and hate each other, that takes like years of diversity and just understanding other people's perspectives, even if that's not what you think.
I think it takes both diversity and What's that thing? Humility.
Mm.
That thing. Like, many times I feel like whenever we're growing up, we think, okay, this is life. This is how life is supposed to be. This is just reality. And then whenever we're met with people of other backgrounds and other thoughts and feelings towards different subjects, I'm being very general right now, then that's when we start kind of getting the idea, oh, maybe like my perception of the world wasn't necessarily the way it is for everyone else.
Mm.
And I think it's genuinely through empathy that we're able to do that, you know?
Yeah.
Because I feel like where I get the most respect out of someone else's views from, if someone has a different view or a different opinion from me, I feel like if I find that out like a little bit after we've already kind of established a rapport and a friendship, and I find out that they have a different opinion, and then I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm not going to debate you on that right now because I value whatever rapport, friendship, relationship we have, and we can talk about that whenever we're both in a comfortable place.
Mm. As opposed to when you meet because of opposing views.
Mm-hmm. Like if I were to meet someone that totally told me that mustard was better than ketchup, and I was just like, no, ketchup's better. You're crazy. But if you were to tell me that you think mustard is better than ketchup right now, I would be like, that's interesting information. I'll file it away for whenever we stop recording.
For the record, ketchup is so much better than mustard.
Oh
but we could keep doing the podcast. Good.
Goodness.
I get what you mean. I think relationships are undervalued or underrated. That's what I wanted to say. I think relationships are underrated when we're talking about people of different perspectives and different backgrounds. Just the ability to put a face, and not that it makes it right, but the ability to put like a close personal face to a certain issue or a certain topic and be like, okay, I don't necessarily like that stance, but I love that person. There's real power in that.
And I think, like, taking it back to the book, how like Cindy and Nicole had both kind of had this parallel journey of their racial identities, but they grew up so differently. I think that is also just something to be said, that like, oh my gosh, my brain just collapsed on itself. How like you can still get, even if you grow up completely the same as someone, you can still get differing opinions.
Yeah.
Like they grew up completely different from each other, but had similar experiences and similar opinions.
Yeah. And I think that's where relationships are really handy, because then you start talking to people and they say something they've experienced or something they're feeling. And you're like, whoa, I felt that too. I've experienced that too. And maybe it's someone you never thought you'd have anything in common with.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a very powerful commonality.
Yeah.
Don't open your mouth and talk.
It's true.
I have no idea.
And like we can all experience the same event, but come out with different opinions as well. Just like, let's see, did we have any classes together? We had no.
No.
We didn't have any classes together.
Jeez.
Oh, my bad. So we both experienced the fights in the libraries for a spot at a table, for not actual fights, but like trying to find that spot in the library that you could study at that wasn't occupied, standoffs. Yep. Did that give you a negative or positive perception of space in a library? I don't know.
I was just like, man, we are all in here trying to do well.
Yep. I mostly got angry and was just like, people better get up and go to the bathroom and take your stuff with with you.
That's how it goes, though. You stand up and you come back, and that seat's gone.
It's gone. It's true. It's true.
Yeah. When you talk about people growing up or like having the same experience and being very different, I just think about me and my brother, or even like me and my cousins. I feel like we have similar backgrounds, and we could not be more different. Just, I don't think there's a way we could be more different. I literally look at him sometimes. I'm like, how do we grow up in the same house?
Y'all share DNA.
You could tell me differently, and I would be like, "Yep, I knew it."
Y'all do share DNA. Like, that's a fact. That's kind of the definition of a sibling.
But then there are definitely some friends that I feel not closer to, because me and my brother are actually pretty close, but there are some friends that I have where we have a lot in common in ways that me and my brother differ. So
yeah. And it also could like stem from like I don't know, birth order, like you're your own person, all that jazz, yada yada yada.
I mean, like, I study social work and you study like communication. Yeah, there's so many things different.
Pause that you took. It's like communication.
It's important to know how to communicate.
You love your brother.
Whoa, what is this L word? I'm just kidding. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I've always wondered, like, in terms of like how sometimes siblings end up on completely opposite ends of the spectrum on like political views, or like yeah, let's just go with political views. They grow up in the same household, they grow up in the same situations, but they just still have a tendency to like I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, what informs your political views, I think, first starts with what you think politicians should be doing for us. What is their role? And then it stems from there. So your understanding what politicians should be doing for you and what their role is gonna differ based on your experience in life with politicians, with like public assistance. I mean, there's a long list. And I mean, just because you're like siblings or just because you're like really good friends doesn't mean you've experienced the same things.
That's very true. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I think it's just so interesting how we're attempting, partially succeeding, putting this anti-racist spin on this book. I think there's also just like so much that comes into play with both Nicole and her sisters, like identities, like Nicole growing up not immersed in Korean culture, and her sister growing up with their bio parents, and how that influenced how they grew up and saw the world and different things, but they were still able to kind of communicate similar feelings of needing diversity, wanting that diversity piece in their lives, even though they definitely grew up more or less within their heritage, and then the other one didn't. Yeah. I don't know.
It's a great point. I mean, even if you grow up within like a diverse family or within your heritage, if the society around you doesn't mirror that, then that's still a need.
Definitely. Like, I still find myself trying to explore like my birth heritage, and definitely just feeling so awkward trying to navigate it, whereas I see other adoptees who are completely immersed in it, have like gone back to their birth countries and have definitely just have been able to throw themselves into it and take it on like that's your heritage, that's how you were supposed to grow up if the adoption wouldn't have happened, you know. Whereas like whenever I went back to China, I was just like, I am a very awkward person. Granted, I'm also just a very awkward person in any context, but like
it's just not the same experience.
It isn't, even though we have, like, me and other adoptees have the same parallels of like growing up. Me and some other adoptees have the parallels of growing up in like the only Asian in town, or like growing up with white parents. So having those similar experiences, but like some adoptees being able to take on Chinese culture way easier than like me being in China, being surrounded by like my birth heritage and just being like,
yeah, it just kind of, I don't even know if there are words to describe it. It just feels like some people, like in sports, of course I go to sports, some people want to take that final game-winning shot and some people don't. I don't know if there's necessarily anything that could be done to where, okay, like if I do this, then I'll be fully immersed or I'll feel more comfortable. You know, I don't know if there's like, I don't know if that's how it is or if there's something that can be done.
just the way our brains work, I suppose, and the way that our brains interpret those specific actions happening at that specific moment.
Because I mean, Cindy, she went after she joined the military to Korea.
I think so, yeah.
And so she said like she had a great time and it was really fun, but she still felt like a visitor as opposed to being in her culture. And I'm sure that there are some people, because she was with a group of Korean Americans who, I'm sure there were some people in that group who felt completely at home and stayed there. And there were some people who felt completely like outsiders and weren't comfortable.
Yeah. That is just so interesting. I think it would be interesting for me to go back to China now that I've done a lot of this deconstruction work and decolonizing work within myself, to see if I'm like more or less comfortable this time. Yeah.
When you went last time, what was your role?
I was volunteering, doing an internship for a summer at a children's home for kids with special needs. So I was a part of a group of Western volunteers working there for 6 weeks. And I was the only Asian American one. So it was kind of bizarre doing that, I guess, because some of my counterparts did fully speak Mandarin and they weren't Asian, which I thought was hilarious, versus me who didn't speak any Mandarin. And so people would often mistake me as the translator or something like that. And so I just felt very uncomfortable, because I think it was because I was just surrounded by white people for most of the time I was there, versus like whenever I went a little earlier, and there was one of the girls that I was adopted out with was also living in China around that time and was fluent. And so whenever we just went out to hang out together and went to like a street fair and things like that, no one paid any attention to us. We just like walked around. She ordered all of our food and I was just kind of like, as long as I stayed quiet and didn't really draw much attention, no one would ever really notice something different or off about me, I guess. So I'd be interested to see what would happen if I went back without Westerners this time.
I was about to ask, would you go back in a role, or would it just be to like soak in culture and just see what the experience is like?
I think I'd like to go back just to kind of soak it all in. I obviously do not trust myself going back by myself, because last time I did get lost severely, many times. And I think it's a miracle that I still managed to find my way back. But yeah, I don't know. I do not know. I think it's interesting. There was another adoptee that I saw in the news who found her birth parents, and she was actually considered a princess of some indigenous group on her, I want to say, father's side. And so whenever she went back, she like immersed herself in the culture, and they like welcomed her back with like open arms and all of this stuff. And I was like, I can't imagine being an adoptee and like finding out that one of like my blood relatives was like a significant person.
Yeah. It feels like it adds something, yeah?
Yeah, it's kind of like it was kind of like Princess Diaries.
100%. And we know how amazing those movies are.
Exactly. Like, I can't imagine doing that and trying to immerse myself in a culture like that, like Princess Mia did. But oh my goodness.
Yeah, #flashback.
2001. What a time.
What a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a lot to immerse in. I get an incredible experience nonetheless, but still, that's not just like going and just having an experience. That's like, that's royalty.
That's like, oh, here you go.
You hit the ground running.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Like, I don't know, whenever it comes to heritage, like I definitely feel more comfortable in my adoptive family's heritage than I do in my birth heritage. Like, my parents' background is I want to say it's Welsh and Scottish.
Okay.
And so like my cousins like literally wore kilts to their wedding.
I love it.
So yeah. So like, and we make like Scottish shortbread cookies for the holidays. And things like that. But I definitely feel more comfortable in that context. I felt happier. And whenever I did actually visit Scotland too, I felt more comfortable. I think it was also just because of the similarities of Western culture too, to begin with, and the language.
Yeah, which makes sense because that's what you grew up in.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to turn this into an interview of you.
No, it's okay. I didn't mean to keep talking. Jeez.
I was like, she is like on blast right now.
My bad. I didn't mean to keep talking.
Oh man. But how was your trip when you went to Scotland?
Oh, it was fun. It was fun. I was only there for 2 days. It was a quick weekend trip because I was studying abroad in England, but yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I thought that it was a place that I would definitely 10 out of 10 go back to.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think that's like a benefit? Do you think that's one of the positive parts of adoption?
I have no clue.
You get like this mix of two different cultures that are like still very real to you.
I don't know. I don't even know if I would claim my cousin's Scottish heritage for myself. I don't know. I would claim the Americanness in me, but I don't know what else I would claim other than that. still definitely an identity formation, exploratory situation.
Yeah.
But what about you in exploring other countries, other cultures?
I was actually talking to one of my friends about this because like Peace Corps and Peace Corps works in Africa, and like my ancestry things that like the west coast of Africa is where my lineage is, but like that connection was taken away from me and my ancestors. So just figuring out how to reconnect has been challenging to say the least, because I mean, even like west coast of Africa is not in any way, well, it's not like the continent of Africa anymore, but it's certainly not narrowed down as much as you would like.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to figure that out. I mean, even to be able to go on some like not touristy experiences where I can like experience the culture, and like meet people, learn languages, but not in a problematic way, is what I'm trying to navigate now.
I think people are starting to come, it's starting to reckon with people that like the tourism industry needs to definitely take a look at itself, and be less exploitive of people.
Yeah. Which is like the nature of tourism, it feels like that's the foundation. And there are definitely conversations, but I'm not really sure what's become of it.
Yeah.
Because I would love to see like different communities, but not in a way that, like you said, is gonna exploit them. That's like absolutely not okay.
It's almost like you have to have like an in already with the community, and then like not be like, it's a really hard line to draw, I want to say.
And I think this goes back to relationships. Like if I can meet people from like a specific place where I'm trying to go, and I mean just like organic meeting, and like we get close and they're like, oh hey, I'm going here, would you like to come? Then that feels like a more natural and not problematic way, as opposed to going on some like very stereotypical tourist trip where you don't even get to experience the culture. You like stay in like your bougie experience.
Like even whenever I was in China, I had one dinner in a person's house, and I thought it was very like, I felt like they weren't trying to cater to me, but I was just like there having dinner, you know, not, but like other places, like I felt very much like a foreigner because it would be very pronounced that I was like, I'm obviously American and I don't speak the language. And like, I think part of the problem with American imperialism is that like America's definitely drank its own Kool-Aid, so to say, but like unfortunately I think other places have also drank the Kool-Aid.
Yes, that's something we definitely, I mean, I definitely ran into like being a Peace Corps volunteer, just how high up America is and how highly respected the country is. And like you get that because of your citizenship. And so the responsibility falls on you to understand that you are not better, no matter like how people fill your head up. Like, oh gosh, about a phrase that people volunteers say all the time is to make better. And so it's like, you can't go into another country, you can't go into another culture and knowing nothing about it, make it better. That's not your job, that's not your role, that's not your responsibility. Nobody's asking you to do that. But in my experience, it's not that the people in like the countries you go to will correct you. They'll 100% follow you because you're American. So for us to be able to take responsibility for like past Americans and what's been done because of our country, and learning from that and not making the same mistakes. It's like 100% accountability, but so important.
Mm-hmm. And it's definitely hard to not toot your own horn, you know, because like we grow up in American culture, like singing the like I'm proud to be an American, like we grow up singing these songs and like having this ideal that like our way of life is somehow superior.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. And that just, I think there's so much that interlaces like American imperialism with racism, just because this is a country that is founded on racism. So it only makes sense that our imperialistic tendencies also are laced with racism.
Yeah.
there's our our sound effect.
100%. Because I mean, what can you say other than like screaming into your pillow? You know? I think especially as people who've seen it like firsthand, it is really difficult, because people are saying that, oh, you're so great, you're doing great work, but are we really that great?
Yeah.
Are we doing great work?
That was an argument during colonialism, though. Like the Westerners brought infrastructure, Westerners built roads and schools and things like that. But you know, in Canada, they just discovered the bodies of over 700 indigenous children underneath one of the residential schools.
Wow.
And the last government-run residential school in Canada didn't shut down until 1996, so we were already alive.
Wow.
So, like, brings infrastructure, brings schools, brings quote-unquote order, but no, that's just white supremacy.
And at what cost? I mean, lives have been lost.
Yeah.
Cultures have been lost. I have no idea what my natural culture, or my like, my
biological,
what the culture I come from. I have no idea like what that even is. Okay, so this whole race ethnicity thing.
Yeah.
Right. So Black is race.
Yeah.
Ethnicity for me, American.
See, that's where I get confused for myself too, because I would be like, okay, Asian is a race, but ethnically, I act like a basic white girl.
It was like, and so these are all the things I feel that are lost with colonialism and imperialism. It's like, I don't know. I mean, ethnically, I guess American, but like, clearly I'm not like, I'm like of American, I'm like of the African diaspora, but the fact that I can't like point to a specific ethnicity is a problem.
Yeah. Like, and then sometimes I feel like sometimes people argue that like regional wise, like the regional quirks from like your hometown and stuff, that could like draw into your ethnicity too. But like your ancestry, like I don't have any links to my ancestry.
Yeah.
So that is a very tragic thing of globalization. For sure.
I will say with the accessibility and just how connected we all are through social media and music, which I feel like we can connect through music because of things like social media and the internet. It feels more plausible to have like, I mean, pen pals were like very old school, but now you can have like email buddies, or you can have like a language exchange and meet someone from like the other side of the world. So It's possible. I'm just currently navigating it, so I don't have the answers.
Yeah. Instagram friends, be safe on the internet, kids. Don't actually do that.
I will say for Alicia Keys, because I read her book more myself, which is amazing. Totally recommend it. She's amazing. She talked about she went to Egypt, and they were able to find someone who gave them like a very real guide, like exploration kind of experience in Egypt, but it was like supporting a local community and a local person, and it was like so ethically done. So
Yeah.
there's hope.
There is hope. There is hope. Like, I just finding it is just difficult and it's hard.
Yes.
But I think that having these conversations is a good place to start for us. For sure. Well, that was a lot.
How are you feeling, Hannah?
Oh, talking about like lost heritage because of imperialism and colonialism.
Yeah.
Like that being the very least of things lost due to imperialism. The most obviously being the loss of human life, but kind of want ice cream right now to make myself feel better.
This is a heavy conversation.
It really was. Yeah. How are you feeling?
Good, I think. I think I feel good. It kind of makes me want to like actually put in the work recently. Like it's like more of a call to action. It's like, okay, we talked about this now, and in a certain amount of time, I actually want like a result of this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, like it kind of makes me think that we could do like action items like this week I'm going to X, Y, and Z, but also knowing how crazy life is, we don't always mark off everything on our to-do list.
Yeah, sometimes a to-do list is actually a list in itself. It's a hassle in itself.
Yeah, make a to-do list is a hassle in itself. But oh my goodness. But I can't wait for you to see what happens next, honestly.
Okay.
Like I'm excited.
What do you want to read to?
Okay, so I finished up at part where it says part 2. So, and that was on page 80. So I'm thinking to page 100. Is that enough?
Okay. And what's on page 100?
Another section.
Okay.
So it would be 80 to 99 technically.
Okay. That sounds good.
All right. I will see you next week.
Yay.
Yay.
Have a good night.
Good night.